Hello everyone, and welcome to the webinar, The World is on the Move, hosted by Latitude, Residency and Citizenship and JTC Private Office. I'm Victoria Blackburn and I'm part of the JTC Private Office team. I'm joined today by Eric Major, CEO of Latitude, Matthias Belz, Head of JTC Private Office, and Karen O'Hanlon, Senior Director of JTC Private Client Services. Today, we're going to do a presentation. It will last about 40 minutes. And after that, we're having a Q&A session. If you have any questions, please feel free to jot them down on the Q&A tab throughout the session, and we'll discuss them at the end. Thank you. So first of all, I'd like to hand over to Eric, who is going to provide more details on Latitude and the services it has to offer.
Thank you, Victoria, and welcome all to today's webinar. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So a few brief words regarding Latitude, which was founded in 2017 by like-minded co-founders that have extensive experience in this investment migration industry of ours, over 75 years, in fact, where we have representation in over 15 jurisdictions and now stand roughly 80 to 85 staff and representatives in the countries listed on this slide. We're proud members of the Investment Migration Council, which is the association that sets the global standards for our industry and effectively is the voice of our industry. And we're, in fact, a representative for the region of the Caribbean, Latitude is, so we're very proud about that. Our business is focused around two main service propositions, basically one for international private clients that are seeking to avail themselves of these residency and citizenship privileges. So we have over 25 countries that we could assist our clients in becoming a resident or a citizen. But we're also active in advising governments in establishing these programs, refining them if they already have provisions in that regard. And our government advisory team has been responsible for the creation and launch of over half a dozen countries currently offered in the marketplace.
Thank you for that, Eric. And now I'd like to hand over to Matthias, who's going to give us a quick introduction about JTC Private Office and the services it has to offer.
Thank you, Victoria. Hello and welcome. My name is Matthias Belz. I'm the head of private office at JTC Group, a London-listed company providing private client, corporate, fund, and pension services out of 23 offices, as presented on the following slide. I'm residing and working in Switzerland, Geneva, and currently cover the United States, Europe, and Middle East with my private office colleagues. Our private office provides virtual family office services as a manager of managers, and we're supported by our award-winning client portal Edge. We see ourselves as expert generalists working on an open architecture basis with internal and external service providers for the bespoke requirements of our clients. For more details, I refer you to our website or invite you to contact me directly. I hope you enjoy the webinar, and I will be ready for questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. And now I'd like to hand back to Eric, who's going to explain just how mobile the world has become and highlight some of the main drivers for mobility.
Well, indeed, Victoria, there are many drivers that bring applicants or clients to consider moving to another jurisdiction or acquiring an alternative citizenship. Some of these countries provide more than one of these drivers listed here on this slide. For example, in the Middle East, we have clients who obviously may have citizenships that does not afford visa-free travel to as many countries as their business requires them to have, at least with ease. And so they look at citizenship by investment effectively to enhance their mobility and to enhance access to their business endeavors. You could also have situations evolving in a particular jurisdiction that involves a family having to move very quickly if there are political strife or security concerns. So again, having an alternative citizenship could be very important and expeditious to get the family out. You have countries that are a big draw, big pull with respect to their quality of life or the educational offering that they provide for children. And I think of the UK, I think of Canada, I think of the United States, Australia, New Zealand. That caters a large market interested in the educational infrastructure that those countries offer. And you have clients that are looking maybe as the next final stage of their life and their chapter to retire and to enjoy the spoils of their hard work. And we have jurisdictions that cater to that clientele. I'm thinking of Portugal with its non-habitual tax regime, a jurisdiction like Jersey, where JTC and Latitude are based, also caters to both a tax planning agenda as well as a quality of life agenda, and Monaco and the like. And some of these countries offer a little bit of everything. I'm thinking about the Caribbean, for example, that provides citizenship, which enhances people's mobility, but at the same time offers a very compelling tax planning agenda, as well as a nice place to put one's feet up and enjoy retirement life.
Thanks, Eric. I'm now going to hand over to Karen, who's going to talk about how JTC works with high net worth individuals, creating a range of bespoke solutions to help with asset holding and assist with these main drivers behind the migration aspirations.
Thank you, Victoria, and thank you everybody for joining us and listening in to our webinar today. I'm Karen O'Hanlon. I work at JTC in the private client team. I've been a trustee for more than 30 years, and I have been working with ultra high net worth clients and families living and working all over the world and hand-holding them, managing their global footprints. As Matthias mentioned earlier, we provide administration services to a whole host of structures, including the usual trusts, foundations, companies, funds, and limited partnerships, just to include just a few. Being an independent fiduciary, we are not limited in the types of asset classes that we hold in our structures. And this is very much where we are working with independent lawyers, tax advisors, intermediaries, and the immigration experts such as Eric and his team. Some of the main drivers for our clients post-COVID, they have been analysing, is now the time for them to convert their businesses into liquidity and having that liquidity event. And what does that mean for them? And are they actually in the right jurisdiction to do that? And this is where we very much work with the independent providers to ensure that they are getting the best advice and choosing the right jurisdictions to move to. Some of our clients have also been looking at their retirement planning and where is the right jurisdiction for them to be. We have recently acquired the RBCC's Limited pension business, and we have an in-house team that sit within our corporate services business. So we work very closely with our corporate team. Our corporate teams look after clients who run multinational corporations, and there's always a private client sitting around there somewhere. So we pretty much wrap our arms around the client and work with the best providers to provide the optimum solutions for them. Another part is tax planning. We work with tax planners, tax advisors, providing a comprehensive range across all our different jurisdictions and to help them managing the affairs. And our private office provides that bubble solution around them and helps them navigate through that landscape. One of the drivers could be education, one of the drivers could be elderly parents about where they want to move to, are they in the right time zones? So that's very much what we help with, and the private office will guide them through that minefield as it potentially can be.
Thank you for that, Karen. Now we're going to hand back to Eric, who's going to talk to us about the three main plays in determining the migration of individuals and their new destination country.
Thank you, Victoria. Well, Karen said something that's relevant to this slide here, that there is indeed a minefield of options and possibilities when it comes to some of these solutions, at least in this investment migration world of ours. Some of these countries indeed will address more than one driver, and often our clients will have more than one motivation. But in trying to explain the landscape, because there's so many programs and products available in this area, we generally tend to segment the needs into three major plays. Our clients are either doing this predominantly for an immigration play, which is the true desire to move and relocate to a new country in search maybe for a better quality of life, or simply the rule of law and a lifestyle and social setting for their family, as well as education. Other cases, there's no intention to relocate in the short term. It's just a question of enhancing mobility, again, to support in terms of their leisure travel, or in terms of their business, and in terms of accessing countries more easily. Or you do have, for some clients, a tax motivation. They may have a wealth effect that's around the corner, and therefore it makes sense for them to be at the right jurisdiction at the right time. So most of the countries that we offer will fall into one of these major plays, so to speak. But I thought this slide would be important to spend a few minutes just to explain what the media often confuses when they tag these programs as passport programs. Very few of them are passport programs. Most countries, including the UK, including Canada, including the United States, including Portugal, offer a residence program with a pathway to citizenship. In fact, all of these programs, talking first with the UK or Portugal, which are also two very popular destinations, you first get a residence visa, a temporary status, which with the passage of time and the fulfillment of the investment, could graduate you to permanent residency, or what the UK calls indefinite leave to remain. And only after a further amount of time, possibly the learning of the language or an examination, could one then further graduate to citizenship. And in the case of Portugal, that would be EU citizenship. So that's generally the process under which these programs work. But in the last 15 years, we saw certain countries, starting in the Caribbean with St. Kitts and Nevis, and now most of its neighboring islands, expediting that journey to citizenship with very limited, if not to say no physical presence requirement. So it's an immediate, following an investment, and immediate access to citizenship. Now, we put the EU citizenship at the pinnacle to this, and it's surprising to me how still a lot of people don't fully appreciate how powerful EU citizenship is vis-a-vis other types of citizenship, including Canada, including Australia, including the United States, is that with EU, 1 equals 27. So, and those from the UK will know that they've lost that access with Brexit. But if you're a French national, you have the right to work, live, settle, retire in all of the remaining 26 EU member states. Same if you're from Malta, same if you're from Cyprus. So the EU really is the ultimate citizenship in our industry. On the next slide, I'm just giving you examples here of what makes up most of the immigration play options that our clients could be looking at. These are countries like the United States and Canada and Australia, but also the UK and Portugal. They have well-devised residency programs destined to attract families to actually pick up their bags and move to these places with a view of spending time, often with the children in mind, education in mind, but also lifestyle and sometimes business as well. The next slide features some of the countries that are really catering to the mobility play. And this is, of course, all of your what is now 5 Caribbean nations that offer citizenship effectively in under 4 months from submission to approval, by making an investment, which for a single applicant could be as low as roughly 130,000 US dollars for a single applicant, and as low as under 200,000 for a family of 4. So you see that some of this is actually quite accessible and affordable for the affluent market. But then again, as you saw with the previous slide, in terms of the EU context, Malta, being part of the EU, offers citizenship under its program. It's a 16-month journey from beginning to the end, and that expedited process means it's going to be a lot more expensive. In fact, circa €1 million that you would effectively have to provide in terms of capital outlay. The next slide talks about those jurisdictions that offer maybe as well as a lifestyle play, a tax play. Switzerland with its well-known forfait lump sum taxation regime, Jersey with its 21E, what used to be called the 11K regime that Guernsey emulated, but even the UK, as tax advisors often remind the world that indeed, if you're a non-dom, a resident but non-domicile, you can indeed shelter your worldwide income from the UK tax net, and that's why the UK also makes sense with respect to those who are wanting to move there and have a tax savings. Portugal, again, I mentioned earlier with this non-habitual tax regime. Italy emulated what Portugal launched in 2012 with this new tax play that effectively for €100,000 gets you tax residency in Italy. So that's just a few examples. And I like the statement here, this slide, where when it comes to tax residency, it's not so much where you are that counts, it's where you're not. It's easy to say I'm a tax resident of Jersey. If you have a home in Jersey, you spend time in Jersey, but it's more about making sure you're not a tax resident elsewhere, like the UK. So it's more about making sure that you're not tripping over the tax residency requirements on the other countries. But these countries will gladly take you as a tax resident. So I'll hand it over back to you, Victoria, to provide some example and case studies that touch on some of the points we already covered.
Thank you, Eric. And first of all, I just want to say that I am based in Luxembourg. As I've mentioned already, I'm part of the JTC private office team. So I've lived here for a few years, but I previously lived in Jersey for over a decade, and before that, I'm from the United Kingdom. So I've had my own experiences of relocating. And one of the big things we actually do talk about very much so is the emotional factor behind it. There's a lot to consider before you relocate. But there is a lot of emotion behind relocating, and I think more than people expect sometimes. And every member of our private office team has themselves relocated once or twice or even more times. And so they really know what it means to move. There's also a large amount of paperwork involved, both of a personal and corporate nature. And people like to have time to freed up for themselves, so we can actually come in and help them with that. It depends where you move. Some places have more paperwork. I know very well about that, having in the last few weeks been stood at immigration renewing my papers because of Brexit recently. But clients find they like to be in touch with someone who understands that practical side and that emotional side, who can help them move into a new community, help them with the school network, and sort of a business forum as well. That can really make the difference between a good move and a great move. And your private office representative can help you break through language and cultural barriers very quickly and logistically as well, because they understand where you are. And they can help you make that place, that new place, feel like home a lot quicker, and act as that kind of sounding board as well. So you are working with somebody that really gets what you're going through. And we've helped move a number of people. And if we turn now to the next slide, we've got a case study on here. And this was a client of ours who had a wife and 2 children, and he amassed his wealth very, very quickly. And because he was so focused on his business, he didn't have a lot of time. And he wanted to relocate to a safer location. He was coming from the Ukraine. He had homes there in London and Mallorca. And so what we did was we helped him move with his family. We helped him set up a new business base and to basically help organise his personal affairs. Because he'd been so focused on his business, he hadn't had a lot of time to do basic things like insurance and even wills, because that's one of the big things with clients. They're so focused on their businesses that those other things fall by the wayside. And we come in and help with those things. So what he needed to do as well was set up new bank accounts, and he was also starting to think about long-term what he wanted to do in terms of setting up a philanthropic trust. And he also had issues in terms of there was a language barrier, so we were able to come in and help there with him and his family. So on the next slide, you can see that we initially orchestrated a beauty parade of legal advisors to help work with the client's new residency and consider the rules that he had to consider now, but also if he'd actually inadvertently broken some in the past, and basically do a big tidy up exercise. We worked with his PA to help that person organise and support him more efficiently. And that's one of the things that we'll do, is that we don't come in to break anybody's existing team up, we come in to support them and are very practical about the use of our time and the use of their time. We secured premises for his new office setup, and we took a long time with these kind of fireside chats that we had with him to understand what his needs were and to understand what his aspirations were. And he very much wanted to give money to charity and to give money in his home country to set up schools for disadvantaged children. We also came in to help with the accounts for his business and, as we said before, to set up new banking relationships and to support with the IT, etc. So we did a lot of work with him and his family, and basically helped that move go a lot smoother for him. And we've been there on an ongoing basis now for him. And it is very much as little as a client needs, but also as much as they need, and they can dip in and out of our support in that sense. So that's just one example of the type of services that we can offer. And next you'll see on the slides, there's the key contacts for Latitude, followed by those of the JTC group as well, both private office and private client services. I'd just like to say thank you very much for listening to our webinar today. We're going to move into the Q&A session now, and some of you have already submitted questions. Please feel free to add some more. And if we don't get through all of the questions today, we will answer you personally as well. So thank you very much.